Hello and welcome to Knowledge by Nature. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you a flip through of learning language arts through literature, the Orange Book. So if that's something that you are interested in, I'd love if you stick around. All right, welcome back. If this is your first time here, I am a homeschool mom to a fourth grader. We love all things books, homeschool, and sharing our journey with you. And if that is something that you are interested in, I would love if you consider hitting that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up if you enjoy this video. So, Common Sense Press ended up sending me this curriculum, and it is an all-in-one language arts program, and I wanted to share it with you. We have started using it. I haven't used it a lot, but it's mainly going to be a flip through, letting you see what all is in here, what all it entails, and if this might be a good fit for you. Now you'll see that there are two books here. So we have the Orange Book teacher book, and then we have the Orange Book student book. Now, I will say you do not have to have the student book. You could take this and create what you need, but this makes it a whole lot easier. Everything's already there for you, and I'll show you that. But yes, this is all in one. And even though it's all in one, you wouldn't necessarily have to use it all, but you could use a lot of the others. So for example, right now we're really not using we're not really using the spelling portion. However, I could see where it would be good to use the spelling occasionally as like either a review or an enforcement of what we've already learned. So I want to take you into this. Again, this is by Common Sense Press, and instead of doing it by grade levels, they do it by color. The orange is correlated to fourth grade. So let's look here. They have different colors here: blue, red, yellow, orange, purple, tan, green, gray, gold, all of those. And so you can see that the blue is first grade, red is second grade skills, and so on. So that just gives you an idea of what color you might want to be looking for. Again, I kind of like that it is color coded because as homeschoolers, we're not always grade specific, and I like that we've got these skills that we can look at. All right, as I mentioned, we are looking at grammar, vocabulary, spelling, writing mechanics, reading, poetry, research, and creative writing. All of these things are in this book here. Here is the student book, so you can see that they're not crazy thick, but we're looking at about maybe 278 pages of actual lesson pages in the student book. So we start off with how to use this book. So there are 36 lessons, and that includes 4 book studies. So it gives you a total of 180 days of work if you do it as it's set up. As we know, we can always make anything how we need it to, but this is, if you just want to kind of open and go, it's set up for days 1 through 5. So if we were looking at lesson 1, day 1 through 5, your student would complete A through D, which is read the literature passage, dictation and edit, choose spelling words, read your spelling tip, and then do the enrichment. Then you would follow the same routine for day 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is usually a review of the whole week. Now there are separate sections, so you're not just going to do grammar all week long. You're not going to just do writing all week long. You have like these units, and so you're going to do a unit, and so your everyday words is going to be looking at kind of language skills. That's kind of, I think, our little grammar section a little bit. We have our dictation and copy that we're going to be working on, and we're going to be looking at different tools that we're going to use for our grammar. Now up next is you're going to have a book study. So you have these everyday word section you're going to do, and then your next unit is the book study. And so there are 4 studies within this, and they're sprinkled throughout. Then we have a research unit, which I think is really nice. They are teaching them how to research. And so each of these units are preceded by a preparation for research lessons. So it kind of prepares them for this unit that's coming up. Then we have a journal writing unit, a poetry unit, a newspaper unit. Story writing and bookmaking unit finish out the book. Now we also have review activities that are listed. We have assessments. Then we have the appendix, enrichment answers, which are either in here or they're part of this book. And then we have also the skills index, which if we go to the very, very back, we will see exactly what skills this is going to be dealing with. So let's look at that. So I will just kind of leave this right here. So if you want to pause it, you can see everything that's going to be covered within this orange book level. So to begin with, we have the 4 book studies: The Boxcar Children, Wilbur and Orville Wright, Ben and Me, The Sign of the Beaver. Now, I am actually using their Literature for American History, and I believe at least The Sign of the Beaver is in that series, and there may be more. And so I'm going to try to line those up so that they're happening at the same time. If you're interested in seeing their history, I'll put that right here. I'm really excited to use that this year, but there may be 1 or 2 of these that coincide with that. So I'm going to kind of maneuver those around so that I'm hitting them both at the same time, if possible. Now, here we see all of the grammar concepts that are going to be covered in this orange book level. Again, I'll pause that right here and then we'll flip the page. All right. Next, we have all of the composition subjects that we're going to be doing. So you can see we're working with a final draft, editing, story writing, time capsule. There are a lot of things in the composition section, and you can see that we're hitting some of them early in the subjects, and then we're also hitting them a lot later in this lesson. So you can see it's sprinkled throughout. Then we have our reading. This is all of the things that we're going to be talking about that are associated with reading, like a biography, similes, syllables, haikus. All of that kind of goes together. Over here, this is the spelling that we're going to be working with within this program. Again, could be really, really great for kind of adding to what you already have, a little bit of extra practice. Or if you just want an all-in-one, this could be perfect for you. I think an all-in-one would be a little bit messy for me personally while we were at the very, very beginning, like kindergarten, first, second. However, I could see where maybe your 3rd or 4th grader, this is going to be perfect. Then we have our study skills where we're working with an atlas, a dictionary, we're library skills, the newspaper, taking notes. So you can see there's lots of different skills that are covered throughout the whole orange book, and I really, really like this. Here are all the little spelling tips that come with the program, and then these are all the spelling words that they're going to be working on and learning how to spell. Now, let's go back to the front of the book and look at a few things here. So just a quick little note, as I mentioned before, that you can use this with just the teacher's book. So there's an activity book. It's not a duplicate of the teacher's book. So you need the teacher's book to be able to do this all the way. This is like your enrichment sheets and their little activity books. So that is a little bit separate, but I would recommend this because it's really nice having it all here. But let's go ahead and get into this here. So we have our table of contents where we're looking at these everyday words. Remember I said that there's different sections. So each lesson is going to be comprised of a week if you do it 5 days a week. In the past, I would have been really bothered by not completing a whole lesson in a week and having that go into the next week. However, starting this in the summer where the schedule is really wonky anyways, I'm not having that problem at all. Like, we've been using this for a couple of weeks and we're on lesson 2 in the middle, and that's fine. I'm not having a problem with that. So we have this everyday words section right here where we're kind of working on more of those grammar skills, and we're getting a little bit of this introduction to the book that we're going to be studying for our book study. So as you can see right here, lesson 4 is we have the book study of the Boxcar Children. But right here, we're already being introduced to the book. We're already starting to see some lines. We're evaluating those lines. We're editing different things with using the literature passages from that book. And so that's really, really cool how that ties in. Now, after our 3 lessons here, which is 3 weeks, we are going to have a week of assessments. And so you can go back and you can practice and review what we've been talking about. Then we're going to go to lesson 4, which is a book study. It does say over here in this section for the book study that they can be completed in 1 week. However, depending on your student's reading level or how you're choosing to read the book study, you may need to modify that. Maybe you'll get it done quicker. Maybe you're gonna need 2 to 3 weeks if you wanna do it as a independent read possibly, or you could do it as a read aloud. That's up to you, but you can use the questions in the book study however you want with that, whether you've read it independently, the child has, or whether you've used it as a family read aloud. All right, up next is lesson 5. We have the preparation for research. And then we go into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of journal writing unit. Then you can see that we've got this everyday words returning where we saw right back up here where we're going to have that grammar tie in a little bit more. Again, we're getting a little bit of this introduction to this Wilbur and Orville Wright before we have our assessment and we move into the book study of that. So really, you could honestly probably start reading, depending on the length of the book, your child's reading level, all of that kind of stuff. If you wanted, you could start assigning that over here. And so really, you could have 4 or 5 solid weeks that you were devoting to that book if you wanted to go ahead and start reading it. Maybe you have a really fast reader and they are going to independently read a book in 1 week. If that's the case, this is perfect for you right there. Now we see we're running over here to our research unit. Up next, we have this everyday words again, and we have the tale of Annabelle Hedgehog. However, you're going to see here that we're not following this specific section with a book study. So we're looking at a few different stories, but we're not actually doing a book study on the tale of Annabelle Hedgehog. Next, you're going to go to your assessment where we move into the newspaper unit. Then we have a book study of Ben and Me. Then we move over to the poetry unit. Back to everyday words where we're looking at the sign of the beaver, where we move to the assessment. Then we have a book study for that. And then we're finishing out with story writing and a bookmaking unit in the last 2 lessons. Again, we have all of the appendixes and the spelling tips that we looked at the very beginning. So to begin the unit, we have this everyday words where we're looking at the Boxcar Children, number 1. And then we have this nice little box here where it lists all of the skills that are going to be included in this unit. So I think that's really nice. You can look really quickly to see these are the things we're going to be covering. If you have a thesaurus or you need to get one or you want to use it online, you can kind of look at a few little things right there on how you might be using that. Now, this is the teacher section, so you're going to see that there are teacher's notes here on the side. This section right here is going to be very similar to what they are seeing in here. There are a little bit of differences, so let's look right here. So day 1, lesson 1 was to read the literature passage with your teacher. So if I go to day 1, lesson 1 in the student book, you can see that they have the literature passage right there. Now, the very first week, I didn't actually use the inside. I copied it, or I just kind of did it verbally, but we are using it now, and so I'll show you that a little bit. But there was A where we read that. Then it tells us to write the literature passage from dictation as your teacher reads it. So if you were using this, you might want to cover this up since you're going to be dictating it to them. And you can see here that it leaves them space. It also gives them all the notes here to remember to begin a sentence with a capital letter and then compare your work to the passage. And I found that really, really helpful for her to do it and then go back and compare and correct herself. here, if you're doing the spelling, it says list 3 to 6 words that you and your teacher decide you should study this week for spelling, or use the following list of suggested words. And so it gives you a list, or you can do your own. We have our little spelling tip here that you can see here where we're listening with the ow sound, and that it can be spelled in 2 different ways. So if we look at this same section here in the teacher's manual, we can see we have the spelling words, then we have the write the following words, and this is where you would just have them do it in a different notebook, or you can see it's already set out for them in this student activity book. Now, one of the things here where if you don't get the student activity book, there are optional enrichments that are listed. So you can see here, teachers note the enrichment activities are included in the student activity book. They're optional, but a lot of times they're really fun and they might want to do them. Now, there are the answers to the optional things in the back of this teacher's book. However, there are not copies of those that you could make out of this. So if you wanted to do the enrichment section, you would need the student activity book. So you can see here, this was find 10 words from 1C, which worked over here to our spelling section, and then they found them in here. So that wouldn't be included in your teacher's manual, except for if you wanted to make your own from the answer sheet back here. Day 2, we're going to underline the words in the literature passage that name a person, place, thing, or idea. So they're either going to have to use your book or you're going to need the student book to be able to do this. Next, we're going to find some nouns, some common nouns we're talking about. We start talking about proper nouns. And then here we're going to name a proper noun for each of the common nouns. So again, it gives you some examples or the answers to those. And here is the student book where it's already here. So they can come over here to the underline the words in the literature passage, come over here, and here is the literature passage that they can work with. Or they could even do it over here where they dictated it. Up to you. Now, this is day 2 of the first week, and we have a few more here where we're going to write the following sentences. We're going to replace the underlined word with a proper noun, and then we have an optional enrichment. So let's look at that over here. So the optional enrichment for is right here. On another piece of paper, write 2 complete sentences using a proper noun in each, and then illustrate one or both of the sentences. So sometimes it would be really easy to modify that, but you're not going to know what that is if you don't have the student book. So if you think the enrichments are something your child would enjoy, I would definitely recommend getting the student book. All right, let's finish out here. You can see here is day 3 of lesson 1. There was quite a bit here, lots of optional things that you can add with this one. Go all the way to H with that, and then we are going to review the spelling list. Day 4, here is day 4. We've got more optional. We take an oral or written spelling pretest if you're using this as your spelling. And then day 5, which is mostly a review. You're going to copy the literature passage, you're going to compare your work, you're going to have a spelling test, and then you're going to choose skills from the review activities. Now, the review activities are included in your teacher's manual, so you don't have to worry about that. However, you saw there were a lot of optional activities here. This little crossword puzzle that they could have done, different things that was in the student book that we wouldn't have. But if you have your student book, you have all the review activities right here ready to go for them, where you're going to have to either make a copy or something out of the student book. Then that moves on to lesson 2, and we're still working with the boxcar children at this section. Now let's go ahead and move over to the book study. Real quickly, here is your assessment. So there's an assessment for lessons 1 through 3 that we were talking about that you can give to your child before we move over to the book study. So here's the cover for the book study, the Boxcar Children number 1. These are the skills that you're going to be working on. And then just like before, we have lesson 4, but all of this isn't really broke down into days because it is a book study. So it can be used however you think is going to be best for you. There's a little I can section, and then that kind of wraps up your book study. So you have your summary, vocabulary that you're going to be working on, discussion questions in each chapter. It says find and read the sentences from the book that help you determine the answer to the question. So you can see we're looking at all the chapters. We got different answers down here for the teacher. We have sequencing events, parts of the story, setting, characters, plots, all that fun stuff. And then we have a little story diagram here. Now let's look at this section over here in the student book. All right, so here is the student book of the book study. So here you see that for their vocabulary, they have a big section here that they can write it. Find the word in its context. Reread the sentences before and after the word. Do you understand the meaning of the word? Look up the word in the dictionary and write a clear, simple definition and use it in the sentence. So here we have all of that already prepared. This is really a nice open and go sort of setup for you. Right here, it's already made where you can cut that out. You don't have to worry about making any copies. And then they're going to paste it here for your sequences. Here's your story diagram and your I can. And then it comes to the same section where we're looking for the preparation for research. So our skills here, you can see it is slightly different. The student book doesn't list the skills. The teacher's book lists the skills so that you know what we're going to be doing here. So research, abbreviations, letter writing, addressing an envelope, and note-taking. I like this a lot. I think it's really, really nice. I love this whole all-in-one scenario, and I feel like the spelling is a good review for us. So we may start using the spelling a little bit. We're coming back to the everyday words where you can see this is where we're going to be talking about. This is very similar to the very first section where we did lesson 1, day 1, day 2, day 3. Here's a cute little activity, day 4, and day 5. Then we have our review. After that, we're going to have the assessment, and then we're going to be moving over into, and then the book study. So this is a really great program, I think. You're going to be covering a lot. It's already set up for you in a really easy to use way. I like that you don't just like do grammar, do writing. I like that it's kind of broken out into units. And I think you can probably modify this and move it around to whatever works for you. Here is the newspaper unit where you're going to research materials, a dictionary, parts of a newspaper, fact and opinion, and vocabulary. And this is where it is going to look just a little bit different. We have day 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we go to 5, and then we're starting over here with lesson 22. And where day 5 is not really a review, but you're still working on things from this unit. And then we go over here to day 1 for the next week, day 2, day 3, day 4, and day 5. Again, it's not really a review in these sections. The newspaper unit is set up just a little bit different. Now I'm back in the student book, and I just want to see what the newspaper unit looks like in here. That's really cute. I just saw it. It actually had a little newspaper in it. So you can see it's all set up, ready to go. All of the information that they're going to need in it. Very, very nice. Little mock newspaper there. All right, so I think that gives you a pretty good look at what you can expect with learning language arts through literature. Again, it's all in one. You've got a lot of stuff that you are going to cover in 1 year. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think that you could probably modify these a little bit. So let's say if I'm using this with history and we're actually going to be reading this a lot sooner in history, I think I could probably move this forward and not necessarily have to do it in order because you are working on different skills. But I think these book studies, you could maybe have a little bit of leadway with to modify how you might see fit for you. So again, if you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. I'll do my best to answer these. This is from Common Sense Press, and I really am liking their stuff a lot. I'm really excited to use their history, and we've been enjoying this a lot. We have really enjoyed using that this summer. So that's my plan, is to continue using this for quite some time, and I'll update you as we continue to use it. So thanks for watching, and give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and consider hitting that subscribe button. See you in my next one. Bye.